We'll call the July 8th Sidewalk Committee ad hoc committee meeting to order. And we will start with public comment. If there's anybody from the public that would like to come to comment, please state your name and address and keep your comments to 5 minutes. Sir.
Paul Krell, in terms of Farmington, 8492 and 365 Meadow Road. I get the podium?
Just so people on Zoom can hear you through the microphones too.
I'm sorry. I'm also half deaf. All right, I have a document which I just gave the town manager. She was nice enough to help me through some of it. I think we won't have a problem in terms of the FOI aspect of it. I'm just going to read it and be fastest. I have not been allowed to review Patty Crow Farm purchase related documents. In addition, I would also like to review the Hines property purchase agreement and related documents such as funding. While I received the grant application letter and letters supporting the Meadow Road sidewalk, you redacted the addresses and names on the documents. I asked for the 1938 document town ordinance, which was I alerted to by a Farmington resident, that allows me to say no to a sidewalk. Our Crow Farm has been around since more than 100 years. Please let me know when I can review them. This is a repeat request. I think that part's going to be worked through based on my discussion with the town manager. Now, issues on Meadow Road. I learned about this on May 2025, not August 16th, when the town submitted the grant request. Even my brother was not aware. Between us, we have over 500 feet of farm frontage on Meadow Road. The idea that the town owns this is ridiculous. That's self-serving, I understand. As to the 80-acre Crow Farm purchase, you don't own it without restriction. Development was not to occur without the above requested document. I have had to use newspapers and personal knowledge and cousin for information. I wrote to Governor Rell and asked her to get involved to save the Crow Farm, which she did. Ultimately, it went to referendum and passed. I believe the town is violating all of this. When I was executor of my dad, Paul Crow Sr.'s estate for his Meadow Road farm, which my brother and I now own, I informally had heard about the off. I asked informally about a similar deal for us. I was told that there were some in the town that were of the opinion that the town paid too much. It seems like this might be a motivation. The folks who would be served by this sidewalk live primarily on the other side. Again, I wanted the documents, I hope will prove out what street people live on. The city is a citywide school, so bus and car will continue. After school, I see the buses stop at each street on Meadow Road, causing some of the traffic backup. For a stop sign at Judson, if you want speed control. Should I not be successful, the town should take care of the sidewalks. They already do the walks in Judson and own much of the other land on Meadow. I am concerned about the danger of the small hills, specifically I'm referring to on my land, and cliffs, which will be created by a sidewalk, as well as the drainage from the new hardtop causing drainage problems. This is to be an extension of the rail trail. There should be fencing provided. There was some, I'm going to comment just as there was some confusions when I asked the engineering, implying almost like it might be an extension of the rail trail. So, and some of the questionnaires that I had seen talked about riding bikes, and normally you don't ride bikes on sidewalks. The sidewalk should be cleared by the town in the winter. They already are doing this on the Judson's Lane sidewalks. Reinstate Hill 1938 rules, which would allow our farms owners to not be used for sidewalks if we don't want them. Move them to where the folks want them, move them where all development has taken place, the other side of the road. The lack of sidewalks will not stop walkers. I mean, I've watched what goes through, and most people come out of one street, some come out of the other two. I've seen some bikes, not a lot of bikes. A lot of them are coming out of Bristol to get down there. When I was young, I used to come out of Bristol when I couldn't drive a car. As to connecting with downtown, really, 4 miles? Nobody's going to walk 4 miles. I've ridden it by bike. So the lack of sidewalks have not stopped walkers. After last month's sidewalk meeting, I went to the land trust and asked them if I donated some land to them, could they stop the sidewalks? I'm waiting on the answer. That's how strongly I started feeling about this whole thing, the idea of having sidewalks going through it. I think if my father were alive today, he'd be turning over in his grave, and my grandfather, and he's been gone for a long time. So anyway, that's my little presentation. Have I used my 4 minutes?
You got one left, yeah.
More?
One more minute, yeah.
One more minute? Let's see, I might have. Well, I did walk the streets to see what could be done. You can do it on the other side. It's possible. It would be nice to know whether it's going to be a rail trail. How many people on here are not staff on this committee and are not politicians?
No.
Are you all one of those two?
Yes.
Okay, never mind that. I was gonna make a statement. I've been on these committees before. Usually the town folks steer us in the direction. We don't necessarily take that direction, but usually it steers in a certain direction where they want to see it go. We get close. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to comment, or anybody online?
Not seeing any hands online.
All right.
I think Mr. Krell and I had a nice conversation upstairs, and I had a chance to just quickly look at this letter. So maybe we just have a couple of comments about it.
Sure.
Yes, I think it'd be appropriate.
Mhm.
There obviously was maybe some confusion about the Patty Krell document. So I was not aware that you were looking for them. I told them that they're a public document. So we'll be anything that's a public document, we will give to Mr. Krell. So just to let you know that. The 1938 document, I do, Mr. Krell, we have an email from 6/6/25 responding to you saying that we are not familiar with the document and where is it a state statute. So we did respond. That said, I'm not familiar with it. I think it behooves me to look at it to see if I can find it. I'm not required to do research about it, but in this whole process, I think it behooves us to see what this 1938 document.
I'm asking for it to be included in your full report. Here.
I don't know what it is.
No, I'm just talking about the issue of us being able to say no,
I'm uncertain what that means.
no to a sidewalk.
Yeah, you referenced a 1938 exemption. We don't
know
know what that is.
Yeah, what we're saying is, so that you were told by a resident that there is a
Yes.
a 1930.
resident, and you know how that works.
So you heard from
And
a guy.
you said it was a citation, it was one of your town ordinance back then.
It could have been repealed and replaced with our current, so that's what in my email back to you, I had said, is this a state statute? Because just so I was trying to find it.
And let's say you've done all that, I'm just saying, bring it back.
Oh,
At least
okay,
for
all right,
farms and
Gotcha,
stuff.
yeah.
all right.
Oh,
I think-
revive it is what you're asking.
Okay.
I think particularly just for,
Open
all of
space.
us, town people and politicians, we just want to make sure, for your sake, that we're being as transparent as possible, meaning if we haven't seen the 1938 thing you're referencing in your letter, it's likely because it doesn't exist, not because we're trying to bury it behind the old high school.
Right. And again, let me know when we can review it in your letter. We don't have it, so I can't review it. But it's like I said, we'll behoove to look at it. A lot of what Mr. Krell talked about was the Meadow Road sidewalk. As you know, the Meadow Road sidewalk, the grant, we received a grant. It's not a done deal. We have not had public hearings on it. We have not had different things on it, which will happen. But that said, again, I have not had any conversation with Mr. Krell before this. There is a valid point that we are going to look at, that his land on Meadow Road is open space land, and it may have restrictions on it that you can't put a sidewalk on it. So that will behoove us when we go through the public hearing, and we'll look at it and to see that. I think that that's a fair comment to say that it's as part of the Patty Krell property on that side, and that we may have to look at that based on my quick conversation that I had with Mr. Krell, but just so you know. So
And we don't, and so the process just Mr. Krell, so the next thing that happens with Meadow Road, is that a TPZ or that's council?
it'll be the plan has gone through the,
Plan's gone through TP&Z, wetlands. It is now ready for a public hearing per the sidewalk ordinance.
and public hearing with the town
With the
council.
So, and we have Mr. Krell's information, we could try to, or not try to, we can make sure that he has a chance to be here for that. Okay.
Yeah,
So-
and the other thing, we've talked about it publicly. There's the greater good kind of thought, and saying we applied for a grant. We have not constructed a new sidewalk in 25 years. Should we have some sort of policy that we talk to the property owners first before we do it?
Yeah.
But I said to Mr. Krell just a little while ago, I said, listen, if the town historically had done that, would we ever have had a sidewalk in this entire community? And he acknowledged it's maybe not great, it's a good place to have a sidewalk. There's, you know, so the question is that in hindsight, do you now not apply for any grants if no one wants a sidewalk?
Yeah.
And so.
Which is in general the whole point of this committee.
Right.
It's
And
to-
that's why we're having this committee, because what is our position on that? And so, again, it's a lot easier for the staff to go and talk to people, and the majority of them probably will say no, and us not spend the time applying for a grant, not doing all the work for it and not doing it. Or is it for the greater good and the council decides, and it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Maybe a sidewalk plan goes far, maybe that open space doesn't happen. You know, all of those things are still out there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we have slowed down somewhat the public hearing on Meadow Road, because we are still trying to get a flavor of where we're at. And that committee is helping us. This committee is helping us do that.
Just a question or a point of clarification.
Yes.
The sidewalk is not going on any private property. It's going within the town right of way.
Right.
So I'm just looking for direction.
Yeah.
With, as a respect to, is he saying it's going on the open space piece? The open space parcel is still beyond the town road right of way.
That's, I agree. My point.
It's not, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
I don't
know,
anticipate it being on
No,
a private.
I get it. You're saying
I'm
it's
saying
not going
private
on
property,
right
whether it be
Yeah.
Mr. Krell's property or
Yes.
town of Farmington property, that would still be private property according to the sidewalk.
Yes,
I just want to make sure that
yes.
I don't anticipate it going on anyone's property except for the town right of way for the road.
And yes, it's not a nuance. I totally get what you're saying.
Okay.
It's just that it is a little different. I think it deserves someone to look at it, that because we bought it as open space, does that still mean on our town right of way, can we put a sidewalk there? And to your point, it's not on the open space, it's on the town right of way,
Correct.
which is an open space.
Well, that's what
Correct.
it says.
And so we have
I
to
just
look at
want
the
to, it's for
details.
direct,
We
I
have to
just
look
want to
at
make
the
sure I'm
detail.
clear.
No, it's very good.
Okay.
I mean, it's obviously not the Meadow Road Committee, but it's a very good spot where the stars kind of align for exactly this project with what we're gonna be doing on the sidewalk. So thank you, Mr. Krell.
Oh, we said,
Your last name, if that's all right.
I said, thank you, Mr. Krell.
Oh, thank you.
So that brings us to minutes.
Yes.
So motion to approve minutes for June 3rd.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of June 3rd.
Yes. And then new business. So Mr. Clark.
Thomas? You haven't had a chance to talk, Thomas. How's it been going?
Yeah, it's been going well.
Good, good.
Yeah.
I like your report.
Thank you.
Yeah, doing a nice job for us. I noticed that you changed it up and you decided to give A, Bs and Cs and Ds, which is fine. I think that's great.
Yeah, no, I figured it made more sense to be as specific as possible. So, I mean, I feel like you'll gain a lot more reading the report than what I can say, but I think most of them were in the B or C range. They usually had some level of damage, but they were definitely walkable. Most of them weren't the full 5 feet wide. Most were between 4 and 4.5, I think. Yeah, and you can read, I have a lot of notes on each individual road I reviewed, what type of sidewalk, how wide, and the grade.
And just so we can get an understanding, how many roads have you done? Well, it's different. I'm just trying to say how many times have you been out? How many hours has it taken to do this? Just trying to get a grip.
I think I've done maybe 4 weeks with about 7 hours a week, maybe 7 or 8 hours.
Okay.
So I think I'll be done in another 3 or 4 weeks.
The
if I
whole
keep
town?
up. Yeah, if I keep up the current pace,
Okay.
because
Okay.
most of these were like smaller side roads. So what's left is the bigger, like center of town, Unionville, like Main Street, those areas. So
And-
I think that those will be quicker because I won't have to drive between all the different streets.
It makes sense then. Yeah.
All right, can you just bring me through the key of like what A, B, C, D equals?
So an A would be very minimal damage. It would be 5 feet wide. Very basically a new sidewalk. A B would be close to that, maybe some minor damage, might be a bit slimmer, may have some minor cracks or raised or lowered areas, but nothing that would really restrict use. A C would be a little bit worse than that, maybe a few areas with damage that would restrict use, especially with people with wheelchairs. Maybe a little bit slimmer. A D would be usually closer to 4 feet, more severe cracking, damaging, maybe even missing sections. And an F would be either really slim or severe damage to the point where it's basically unuseful.
So like, just for my own brain, like an A or a B really requires no attention. It's fine.
Yeah, I'd say an A or a B requires no attention, and C's should be pretty good. It would be the D's and F's that I think you would be the most worried about.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, it is a bit subjective, so it would make sense to check some of them out again, but this should be a general
That's what we're looking at.
inventory of all of them.
Russ, you're much more familiar with the areas of town. Has Thomas not hit the areas of town that we know we have sidewalk problems? 'Cause I'm surprised, honestly, how many that they're not more D's and F's.
Yeah, for the most part, he's hit the majority of it. I mean, what areas do you know that you have left?
I know Unionville. It's mostly the concentrated areas, I believe, around Main Street. I'm not entirely familiar with Farmington as well as you all are. So, if it is a problem, because I did notice that too, that I did maybe skew it a bit up where there aren't a lot of D's or F's, it may make sense to look at some of the C's too.
Yeah, well, no, this has been perfect. We'll take a look at it, and maybe when we're out, I'll have our highway superintendent just run through some of the roads just to verify that we're all on the same page.
Okay.
I was just kind of surprised that there were not more
Yeah.
D's and F's, but we hear about the same areas all the time, so maybe that's the whole thing. But we'll check to make sure that we're grading it the way, but it sounds like you are, so I was just kind of surprised that we had more. I thought we were gonna have more D's and F's, honestly.
And even with your Cs though, you do give good notes, so I think those will be helpful in when we go out, if
we decide
they
we
need
have
to
to
be
hit
downgraded
Cs.
or
Yeah.
upgraded.
Thank you, Thomas.
Okay, perfect.
Nice
Thank
job.
you.
Take care, Tom. Thanks.
All right, so item 2, review and consider action on the current municipal policy, practice, and criteria for funding private sidewalk repair and construction.
All right, so you saw the majority of this last time. We added the recreation part. I think, Brian, you had brought that up.
Yeah, I saw that thing.
And what we did is that this now, I think, is pretty close to what in practice we do for our sidewalks, for funding private sidewalk repair and new construction. So, as I think, as we move forward, the next steps for the ad hoc committee is to review these practices and consider whether adjustments are warranted to better align with the town's goals and community needs. If the committee is interested in making changes, there's numerous things that we're going to have to consider. Like Devin and I were talking, peeling a lot of layers.
Mhm.
If we make changes, and we've talked about a lot of that. And the budget, not just the budget. There's a lot of things, the fairness, things like that. And I think we made pretty good progress by getting down what we actually do and what our policy is in practice.
All right, you have any questions, comments?
I don't, I think this was really good. It's what we discussed, and I think it really explains the process that we go through.
Yeah, I agree. I was going through, I didn't have really much to quibble with on this. And then the only note I wrote, which is kind of innocuous, is just that we have to realize that some of this is going to be on a case by case basis, because there are things where there's going to be a weird tree growing in some area, or there's going to be there could be a huge substantial need in 6-house street where 4 of the houses don't want a sidewalk, or have elderly members of the community, or things like that, that like on a case by case basis will be tough. So it's like, it's why making something that is general but touches the most of these needs as possible.
Maybe what we should do is in the note, maybe I should write something to as a note, because again, I keep on what we're doing is it's codifying what we actually do. So we haven't done that,
Yeah.
but we could,
Yeah.
because like you said, something like that could happen. So maybe we do write, like I said, some locations are just not feasible. They may have met all this and we just didn't do it because of that.
Yeah.
We say something like this, that note that this is our general practice, this is what we've done. But like, I don't know what the word case by case, there could be things that would sway us to do something differently.
Sure,
Yeah,
some of those things are kind of covered in that second thing that we're
Yes,
talking about,
right.
but they're not in here. Does that need to be, do we need to combine these, or is it fair to put a couple of those points in there, like what you have to go through if you want to request something? But this is more the process we're doing now.
Right.
But this is the other process to go through if you want one.
Well, I think maybe something along the lines of, if again, 'cause this is our practice, it's a policy that the council probably should adopt, is that if we don't make any changes to it, is it's maybe something like that. If the town staff or whatever is recommending something that is deviating substantially from what our policy is, it should be brought to the council's attention.
Yeah.
Something like that this is what we've done, but if all of a sudden there's some weird one-off on a couple of things, which I would typically do anyway, but maybe we put that in the policy, that should be, the council should be made aware that we're looking at this, because
Like
it's not.
Keith said, case by case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that, because I envision that, let's just say for ha-has, we're not gonna change anything. That you are recommending this policy to the council, and it becomes like a policy that's an internal written policy that we as the staff then follow, and then everyone understands it. This is what we've been doing in practice.
And obviously, as we talked about, it's subject to funding. and everything else.
Yeah. So what I was looking for, it's not approving, it's that you accept that that we all accept this is what we've been doing.
Yeah, this is what we discussed.
Yeah.
This to me, as I read it felt like sitting in those meetings before and what we had talked about.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of this, Brian.
Yeah, I'm glad we do this too.
So I think we need just a motion to it.
So make a motion to accept the policy as presented.
I second.
And this will be something where we'll put it in again when we're coming up with our report to the town council.
Yeah.
But we'll track back on this about whether we should be changing it
Yeah, make some adjustments.
to it. Yeah. And then the next thing was we put together a review process for residents to request town funding for a new sidewalk. And this is based on our current ordinance. So this is the first time you saw it. It says process for residents to request. So I envision we get a request for a new sidewalk. They get this with the town ordinance so they can understand it. So before the project approval, with general guidelines, it explains to the resident, construction of new sidewalks is governed by our ordinance. The town has also established the attached policy, practice, and criteria. So they get what we just discussed, so they understand that. You should review the ordinance and the policy. You should determine as a resident if the proposed sidewalk meets the criteria for a town-funded sidewalk. If not, your request for funding will be denied, but a new sidewalk may be constructed through residential assessments. Please contact me if you wish to pursue the construction of a new sidewalk. That's what we basically do now, but it would be written down so they understand that.
So if someone wants it, they can pay for
For
it
it,
through
yeah.
assessments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's
that's, yeah,
essentially saying if we can't find the money, we don't see it as a need in town, that we go to the town funds for it, that you on your own.
Mhm.
This
right. And that's, and like I've said, that's, we've had lots of people requesting sidewalks. We basically have said, we don't have a grant for it.
Mhm.
And if you want it, you have to follow the ordinance and you're gonna be paid for it and then you're gonna be assessed on it. So this is just telling you and you have information. Then, although not a requirement by ordinance, we would suggest that you talk to a neighbor and fellow residents to gauge interest in constructing a new sidewalk. Inform the abutting property owners that they would not be responsible for the installation costs, but would be responsible for ongoing maintenance, including snow removal, repairs, and liability. Submit a letter to the town manager confirming your request for the construction of the new sidewalk, which include whether or not the supermajority of abutting properties are in favor of the proposed sidewalk. Await for approval. The town manager will determine whether the request has merit and if the sidewalk meets the criteria as listed in the policy that we just discussed. Should be noted that even the request meets the policy criteria, the project cannot move forward unless both grant and town budgetary funding are secured. The town manager will respond to your request regarding approval or denial. If it's approved, the response will include information regarding the funding availability and potential timelines. And then after project approval, you just follow the standard thing. You prepare a map, you have a town council public hearing, you attend the public hearing, the town council will have a decision, and then construction will take place. So this is kind of like a checklist for the people that have asked for a sidewalk. A construction of.
How are we defining supermajority? Is that 75% of the street or 60%?
Should I do just make 75, right, 75% instead?
I think supermajority is fine, but I'm
Yeah.
just
No. I think it's
how you defined it.
Yeah, I think 75,
Right.
we'll write 75%.
Now, does the town, if there is something that is a true public good, that really should happen, safety wise, whatever it may be, it's in a school, there's a new school built, we just need a sidewalk. But a neighborhood puts together a supermajority. People that don't want the sidewalk, we have to be careful how that language is put in there just to make sure that.
No, I don't think so.
Because the town council can still do it
Yeah,
if they want
right,
to,
yeah.
because it's still
Yep.
technically,
Public good,
as
yeah.
I said, it's on a budget
Yeah.
or the town easement right away. Okay, cool. Then I don't have any other questions.
What do you think, Brian?
I liked it. I thought it was helpful and I get what Keith was saying. I was looking at this. Do we need to add in that other document is what we're doing, but this is how we would move forward or are they fine as separate?
I think they're separate, but like when you get this, you're gonna get that other document with
Okay.
it. So,
That's-
and the ordinance, so you see everything. You can read the
Okay.
policy, and here's the checklist, and then you have the ordinance too. So it's really just kind of explaining
Yeah, I think it's
everything.
much better. It's much less ambiguous. It's like if you go,
Yeah.
you need a fence, you go into Shannon's office and they give you a form and tell you what you need to bring to them or, a shed or whatever else it may be. So
Right.
it's the same sort of thing. Just to checklist.
Yeah, really helpful, I think. And it clears up a lot of the questions that were out there because there wasn't a need for it really.
It would be helpful, again, we could keep this as our documents to just, to approve, not approve, to accept.
Yeah,
Make a motion to accept the application for sidewalk construction. That's what
yep, I second.
all in favor. Aye.
Approved.
I'll bring this down to next steps. Or next steps.
So I think that we're moving along with Thomas, so we have to get that complete. So I think that the question is, we get all the sidewalks, basically, well, Thomas does it, then we have the staff evaluate. And then we look at the Ds and the Fs, potentially the Cs, and then we make a determination, are we going to continue with our policy? Like, how I kind of envision it is that around that time, we then go on a public campaign that says, explains sidewalk maintenance, explains everything. We have things in the newsletter and maybe say potentially, listen, we've done an inspection of sidewalks. Anyone that has a G or an F sidewalk, I'm again paraphrasing,
Right.
you're going to be getting a letter and you're going to have to repair your sidewalk. That's one way to do it.
Mhm.
Another way is that the Ds and Fs, you guys could make a recommendation that the town's going to repair all the Ds and Fs. That's something that you could do if you wanted to. But regardless of that, what it is, I think we're before we send letters and do that, we need to, as part of our charge, explain what our sidewalk ordinance is, explain the repairs, explain everything that
Yeah.
goes with it. So more decision-making that's going, but I think we're heading in the right direction to make those decisions.
Yeah.
The next thing is the modification of the policy. So now, as you said, let's just say we want to change our policy. Now, if the town has decided that they want to contribute to building sidewalks, why would we really be having residents requesting sidewalks? Meaning that we should have our master plan that shows where we want sidewalks, and we should start funding them, right? So, you know, again, like one of the things that we haven't done is where would be the priorities for funding? If we're gonna change our overall policy, we should be like, okay, there's six places that we want town funded sidewalks. We need to put $2 million in, and these are the places, and this is the policy. This is
Yeah.
where we're going.
That was kind of on our to-do list, I
Right.
think, when we first started
Right.
talking.
But is, again, that's a decision-making thing. Is that what we're, and I guess my thought was, is this goes back full circle. If that's what we're gonna start to do, I think that's when the survey comes in to the public to say, do we really want to start funding sidewalks at $2 million, $3 million?
Yeah, I think it would be something that was just starkly says, we have identified these 6 to 10 areas, whatever it is, that could potentially connect us in these such ways for these
Essential
reasons.
benefits,
Mhm.
substantial benefits.
And, you know, is this sort of at an expense of $2 million?
This is what it is.
Yeah.
You know,
Here's the cost to you.
and
It's
is this
the
something, is this something you'd be in favor of? Because at that point, you take the temperature of the entire town, because if
Yeah.
you live on, you know, if you live up by Rebel Dog over here, or by Five Corners, do you care about sidewalks in Copper Road?
Right.
And so that's the chance for us to hear back, because I mean, I think, yeah,
Yeah, and then it's a very specific survey and what the cost would be to the average taxpayer. It says, these 6 areas we've determined will be a substantial benefit because they go to a rec facility, they go to a school, they connect neighborhoods to the rails to trails. And if it's a substantial benefit, the overall cost to put new sidewalks in these areas is $24 million over probably the next X amount of years. The town would anticipate funding it $2 or $3 million a year. It would cost X. Something, you know.
You could have the average, cost of the average taxpayer at this. Would you be in favor of this? Yes or no?
and if you live on the street, you should.
Yeah, PS.
Put that,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, we put that really small.
Yeah. And by the way, you don't have to pay for it, but the budding property owners are gonna be responsible for it.
Yeah.
And liable.
Yeah.
Unless you, but it's a survey, right? Unless you want the town staff to do it or us to pay for it, and it's gonna cost an extra $20 million because we need all these staff and this is that.
Yeah.
Yay, nay, yay, nay.
Yeah, I've given a lot of thought to the staff parts, and, you know, especially that first man that spoke about Oak Ridge. But there's just no way to untie that knot. There really isn't. It's a faucet. It's either
Yeah.
all on or all off, and
Yeah.
that's why it stinks to have to say to him, "Yeah, we just can't do it." But the next person that will come is the person across the street who didn't get shoveled, or 2 houses down that isn't doing anything. So,
So that's, I think the next step is really, if we're gonna make modifications, it's gonna be modifications that the town is driving based on essential benefit, what sidewalks we're going to be doing.
Right.
And how much that would cost, and then we survey to find out if people are really interested in making this a sidewalk community to different things.
I think that's great. I mean, it's one of the things that we hear about frequently. So this, I mean, at least it checks the box one way or another. The town says that we want it, or we decide.
On both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to prepare for that, which is one of our other items, is we need to still codify where we think the sidewalks would go. And
Mm.
finalize and prioritize potential sidewalk.
Yeah, I think, my only part about looking at the list, because I know it's only 4 streets here, is that it is very Unionville centric heavy. It's like,
Oh, we haven't finished.
okay.
I'm
good. So-
sorry,
so, yeah,
I'm sorry, those are the ones so far.
that we
had
spitballed,
to-
right? Yeah, so there's more to come.
Yeah,
I
there's
just want to
more to
make sure that
come.
we're thinking about,
yeah.
Yeah, another couple of weeks you mentioned.
Up by where Brian
Yeah.
lives and
Yeah.
wherever else.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's confusing. We
No,
did-
no,
yeah.
I know that there's more. I just,
Yeah.
For Unionville.
for Unionville, yeah.
Yeah, those are, I just kept track of the ones that already we talked about, but we haven't evaluated everything yet.
Cool.
Okay.
So is our next, so we need to schedule another meeting for us, and then are we scheduling the formal meeting tonight too?
I don't think we can until we get our sidewalk stuff done and some of this other stuff. So I think for next meeting, what we want is a finalized and priority of list of where we think sidewalks should go. We are gonna keep on working with Thomas to get our sidewalk inspections. And then we kind of, I think, do like a lookout of like what the next steps are, kind of like when a timeline for everything. And put it out there.
Yeah.
Because I think we really are making a decision about, are we changing our policy? What we're doing is saying, if we're changing our policy, this is what we do, and we're gonna survey the public to see if the public wants it.
Yeah, this is our best shot at it.
Yeah.
This is our best take on it.
Which isn't really that complicated.
No, I think it's pretty straightforward.
And it's in black and white, so it's easy for people to kind of assess.
Right.
Before it was ambiguous. but
Right, yeah, it's.
This is pretty clear.
Yeah.
And I would say simple as well.
The problem is on the surveys, like you said, is that, and that will be for another group, is the survey questions, because it's gonna be like, okay, well, if I live on next, across the street, is that fair? And then blah, 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 and people vote no because they wanted the town to come. I think we're definitely gonna have to have a component in there that the town is doing the sidewalks too.
Yeah, I agree.
But they would be responsible as
Yeah.
you outlined
Yeah.
here. And we're gonna look at where we think we might want to have sidewalks installed.
Yes,
We're gonna be looking at that.
absolutely.
So what are we going to do for our next meeting?
So we are
July?
July. What do you think? You need another, you said another 4 weeks or so? 3 or 4. Are people around mid-August? You want to try to go in mid-August? If like something like that?
I'll be here.
Once you're away at certain times, do you want us to, I can push, you want us to go at the end of August or early September? Would that work better for you?
Are you talking the 13th, 20th, 12th, 19th?
Any days really, I think would be,
Yeah, any of those, if we're doing August, any of those make it's fine. If we're pushing past August, I would,
last week in August, but you know.
We have a meeting on the 12th, right?
No, we
Oh,
don't, yeah, we don't.
No.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
August.
Okay.
August 26th, maybe could be. August 26th,
I'm all right.
I'm open.
don't hear anything, August 26th.
That works.
What, at what time? We have 1928 at 4:30 and we
committee.
would hold that meeting. 5:30 would probably be.
That works for you
5:30.
guys. I don't.
5:30 would
I
probably be.
don't wanna make
fine.
it.
5:30, okay.
We'll have the 1928 building meeting beforehand.
We normally don't go past.
A lot of,
I'm going to come with a lot of public comment.
A lot of change orders.
could be. Potentially. You want to do 6 o'clock?
Yeah, why don't we do 6, just in case the 1928 goes long?
6 o'clock?
Chairman?